going on, Stellar Crew? Bob MacArthur here for Stellar View Telescopes for the April 2026 edition of In the Sky. I'm out here with my SVX 152T. I got it on a Lois Mandy G11 mount. It is galaxy season, so I got to pull out the big gun. Yes, like I said, it is April, it's galaxy season. You have the Coma cluster, the Leo cluster, the Virgo cluster, all the galaxies up there at Ursa Major. Galaxies, 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 and I love it. So, we still have some of the late winter stuff hanging in there, like Gemini and parts of Orion. But like I said, the showcase for April is galaxies. We also have Jupiter and Venus in the sky. Venus is starting to creep up a little bit. It is a great month. So let's get to it and talk about what we got going on in the sky. Well, we start off this month with the waning gibbous moon rising with Spica over in the east on April 2nd. The moon is making its monthly path through some of those stars right along the ecliptic. And at the beginning of April, it starts out with Spica, the brightest star in Virgo. And then on April 6th, early in the morning, you'll see that waning gibbous moon rising with the brightest star in Scorpius, Antares. I like this one because you get to see that really nice color difference between Antares and the moon, that kind of reddish orange of Antares. On April 18th, just after sunset, check out that thin crescent moon hanging out with Venus. Venus is getting brighter and higher in the sky, so check that out. On April 19th, check out Venus, the Pleiades, and a little bit more of a waxing crescent moon over in the western sky after sunset. Now, what's really cool about this, depending on your view, depending on how clear the skies are, you'll also see Aldebaran with Hades, the head of Taurus the Bull, also hanging out with the moon and Venus. On April 22nd, we have the Lyraid meteor shower. Now, the Lyraid meteor shower is going to peak that morning, so make sure you're viewing before sunrise or after midnight. And, with a little bit of patience and some dark skies, you might catch about 20 or so meteors. The nice thing is the moon will be not up, so you should have a pretty nice dark sky. So check that out. And then I like this one. This will be a hard one, but if you have patience and a good sky on April 23rd, you will see Venus and just about 6th magnitude Uranus within a degree of each other. So depending on your field of view of your camera or your eyepiece, you actually might be able to get Venus and Uranus in the same field of view. That could be a fun opportunity right there. And on the same night, Venus continues its close encounter with the Pleiades. Now, this is going to be over the next, kind of the 23rd, but a few nights before that and a few nights after that, Venus and the Pleiades are going to be kind of hanging out with each other. That could be a really cool opportunity for some wide field of imagery, or just get your binoculars out, wide field telescope, and check that out. Venus is in the sky. It's fun to watch Venus kind of hang out with the different stuff as that stuff kind of passes through and hangs out with Venus. On April 23rd, again the same night, that first quarter moon is going to be hanging out and drifting near M44, the Beehive cluster. This is always a fun one. We've been talking about throughout fall and winter, the moon going through the Pleiades. Well, now that we have the spring constellations up, watching the moon go through the Beehive cluster it's a fun treat, so check that out. And then on April 25th, now this is depending on where you are, a good chunk of the Americas are going to be able to see this. You're going to be able to watch the waxing gibbous moon pass over the brightest star in Leo, Regulus. So get on those two links there. Stellarium's good. is.gd Regulus April 2026 will also give you the date and the time of the occultation for your location. And of course, you can look at Stellarium or Sky Safari, but that'll be a fun one to check out too. Regulus has a slight yellowish color, and with the bright kind of white moon, that it helps see that color. And on the 29th, we we end the month the way we started the month, kind of that full lunar cycle, right? The waxing gibbous moon returns to Spica, kind of, like I said, bookending the month. That's how we started. That's how we're going to end it. And they're going to be near each other again. So the moon's just kind of passing through some of those, or passing near some of those bright stars in the ecliptic. So check that out. Some good things this month. So let's get to talking about the planets. Well, here we go. There's your moon phases. The full moon, beginning of the month, April 2nd. And then towards the end of the month is when we get our new moon. So plan your observing sessions accordingly. When the moon's bright, that's kind of a fun time to look at some of those binary stars and some of those objects, some of the brighter clusters and things of that sort. And then of course the new moon. That's when you want to get out to your dark sky site and tackle Galaxy Month. Woohoo! Now planets are getting a little bit difficult. We've talked about some of them. Jupiter is kind of still the bright dominant planet, but Venus is getting brighter. So, and not only is Venus getting brighter, it's getting higher. I think that's the important thing, is it's getting higher over the next few months. So it won't be so close to that horizon. And, here in a few months, Venus will be up late and it'll be bright. And Venus right now is coming from behind the sun, so it kind of has that full gibbous view. But over the next few months, it's going to get bigger in angular size. So it'll go from being kind of that full or gibbous to a half and then down to a crescent. So watch that over the next few months. And of course, we have Jupiter. Jupiter's still up there dominating the sky. Saturn, Saturn and Neptune were near each other. Again, like I mentioned in the last slide, the moon or Venus and Uranus will be near each other. Mars is starting to get maybe a little bit visible in the early morning sky. But right now, like I keep saying, Jupiter and Venus are the two to catch. Now, theskylive.com, I know I plug that thing all the time. Great website to find out what comets and asteroids and other minor planets are up. The Sky Telescope Astronomical Tool, I love this one to find out where the moons are around Jupiter. You could also use Stellarium and Sky Safari for that one also too. So you can zoom into the planets and see where the moons are and things like that. So check those out. Those are always fun. And then the sun. The sun is still doing its thing. Even though we've had a few spotless days on the sun, we're still kind of there at the maximum. And we could still have some really good solar activity, some good solar flares, potential auroras. So just keep an eye on what's going on with the sun. Spaceweather.com and the NOAA Space Weather site, phenomenal. If you're going to do any viewing of the sun, just remember to put that filter on, that proper solar filter. If you don't have a filter for your scope, you can contact Stellarvue. We have all of the filters for all the different sizes of the SVX refractors, so contact us. If you don't have a Stellarvue telescope and you want to, like if you have a Celestron C8 or something like that, Thousand Oaks makes great filters. You can contact them and look up that stuff. So just get that proper white light filter on your scope, because we got to keep these good to go for our image processing and looking through that eyepiece. All right. So check out Jupiter. Barry, great shot there. You got the great red spot. So let's talk about deep sky objects, star clusters. So it's an interesting time of year because we're starting to see the winter Milky Way set. So some of those wonderful objects that we're used to for the winter time, you might still be able to get some of them after sunset, like the Orion Nebula. We'll talk about the nebulas and things like that. But we can still get some of the great winter star clusters. You can get Caroline's cluster, C58 or NGC 2360. Some of those down there in Puppis and Hydra, Monoceros, you can still get those. Even some of my favorites, like the ones down there in Canis Major, are still visible. You got to get them right away though before they set. I really do like M46. I think it's one of my favorite open star clusters because you get a twofer on that one. You get the open star cluster and then you get a nice little planetary nebula in there. So we still, like I said, have some of the winter stuff, but we have some of the great spring clusters like M44, the Beehive. I really love M44. Nice wide field image. That's a shot I took with my SVX 152 right there. M67 is a great one too. That's a fun one to shoot. A little bit more compact, pretty far away, some older stars in it. And we have some globulars. M3, oh my gosh, M3 is just such a wonderful globular star cluster to look at, no matter the aperture of telescope. Check that one out. And then we have M53. I think M53 gets overshadowed sometimes. And I think it gets overshadowed because it's up there in Coma Berenices, up there with the Coma cluster of galaxies. So while you're popping around all your galaxies, check out that globular M53. Great one. Great globular to check out. So, like I was talking about, we still are in, I can't say we're still in the winter Milky Way setting, right? But if you get, your system and your rig set up at sunset, you can still get some of those wintertime favorites. For me, the Rosette is still, you're still able to get that one. You can still get, I think it's the Seagull. You can still get Thor's Helmet, but you gotta tackle them. But what's great right now is we're getting some really nice planetary nebulas. You can still get the Clown Face Nebula, NGC 2392, the Ghost of Jupiter down in Hydra, NGC 3242. Now, both the Clown Face and the Ghost of Jupiter are Caldwell objects also, so they're in the Caldwell list. Now, the Big Dipper, Ursa Major, is high. It's up there. And because of that, we actually get some really cool stuff, which we'll talk about the next slide. But the Owl Nebula. I love the Owl Nebula. This one's a really good one because you can see the structure, and actually you can get the planetary nebula depending on or not just the planetary nebula, but you can also get the white dwarf there in the middle. And Barry got such a great shot of the Owl and M108, which is a galaxy known as the Surfboard Galaxy. So that's a great photo op. Check out the Owl. Now, whether you're doing visual observation or photography, use your filters. Planetary nebulas tend to play really nice with UHC and O3 filters. So play around with your filters. Try that with the Clown Face. I've done that one with O3. Amazing. Ghost of Jupiter, the Owl, some beautiful planetaries. And like I said, we still have some of our emission nebulas, things like that. And I'm going to throw a shout out to our friends down there in the southern hemisphere, or even in the northern hemisphere at the lower latitudes. You have the Carina Nebula. Now, I know you can get it in Hawaii and parts of Central America, but if you're down in South America, that Carina Nebula is really high. So check that out. That is a beautiful emission nebula. And Kevin got a great shot of it right there with his SVX90T. So good work on that. But what is the spring known for? What is April known for? Well, it is galaxy season, and holy cow, I know I have a bunch of stuff up there. I'm like, how do I even talk about all of the galaxies that are up there this time of year? Because there are so many. So I kind of highlighted some of the brighter ones because I wanted to make sure, if you have a smaller aperture, you can also get some of these galaxies all the way up to the larger aperture. I know there are so many more I could have listed. So I kind of listed some of the highlights, like in Ursa Major, the Big Dipper. You have M81 and M82. M81's a beautiful spiral, and then you have M82, just a great irregular galaxy. And there are actually two little fainter NGC galaxies up there by those also. And then you have M101. M101's a challenging galaxy because it's relatively bright, but it's really spread out. So I've seen some great images of that yet. So again, you can get that with your aperture depending. And then I mentioned M108 in the last slide because it hangs out there with M97, the Owl Nebula. So the surfboard's fun. It's a flat kind of edge on. I think it's slightly not quite edge on, but it's a fun one to look at. A great spiral. And then, just a little bit kind of south of the Big Dipper, and the handle of the Big Dipper, you have Canis Venatici. Some wonderful galaxies there, too. M63, the Sunflower. M94, the Croc's Eye. You got a nice little dust lane in that one. And, of course, M51. It's funny because, M51's, right off the handle of the Big Dipper, so you always think it's part of Ursa Major. But Canis Venatici is kind of a two-star constellation, but with Cor Caroli. Beautiful double, by the way. I didn't put that one in there. Oh, my gosh, Cor Caroli. But M51's closer to the Ursa Major than it is Canis Venatici. But anyways, whatever. M51's great. It is like the classic spiral galaxy. And you got another, companion galaxy that, it's cannibalizing and, great. I love using that one in my classroom to talk about galactic cannibalism and galactic mergers. So check that one out. And then NGC 4631, the Whale, a cool little spiral galaxy, kind of slightly edge on and warped, which is pretty cool. And then, I mentioned the Coma cluster when we were talking about, the globular star cluster, M53 that's down there. But there are so many beautiful, beautiful spirals in there too. My favorite out of that Coma cluster is NGC 4565, the Needle Galaxy. But like I said, you can just float and move your telescope in that area and you'll catch so many galaxies. Same thing with Leo. I've been really enjoying Leo. I have not spent that much time in Leo, but I have this season. And there are some really fun galaxies. You get the Leo triplet, and M65, M66, and NGC 3628, also known as the Hamburger Galaxy. I like double hamburgers with some cheese on there. It kind of looks like that, kind of like a double. Anyway, sorry, now I'm hungry. Want some In-N-Out? Let's go. So I like the Leo triplet. It's great. But you also have the other triplet in there with M95, M96, and M105. Okay? You have multiple groupings of galaxy kind of in the belly of the lion. And I've moved, just from that group to that group to that group. So there's a lot of great stuff to look there. And then off the head, you also get this awesome one, NGC 2903. I love that image that Brian caught. Nice shot with the bar there and the spiral arms coming off of that. So I've never had looked at NGC 2903 until this season. And that, I think, is a cool testament to this hobby that we have, or this passion that we have, is there's always something new to look at. And I hope that this monthly In the Sky gives you guys some new ones to look at. Maybe revisit some old friends too, right? So there you go. Now, the Virgo cluster is it's immense. It's the largest galaxy cluster that we know of, and it is huge. It has thousands of members of galaxies, lots of ellipticals. There is so much to look at. And Nicola got a great shot there showcasing M59 and M60 with some of the other Virgo cluster galaxies in there. Honestly, it's really, that list would go on and on and on and on. Jump on Stellarium, jump on Sky Safari, and you will just see how many galaxies are there. But M59, M60 are some of the showcase objects. M87, boom. That one is a massive elliptical galaxy. Matter of fact, that is the Event Horizon Telescope's object that they got the very first image of the black hole. Look that up. That is pretty sweet if you haven't looked that up. So M87, a huge elliptical galaxy. And there are just so many galaxies. Like I said, just check it out. Move around, scroll, scan. There's so many things to look at in those areas. It's so fun. Galaxy season. It's very challenging during a Messier marathon, I'll tell you that. So there you go. Now, like I like to always end In the Sky is with some binaries, and I got my notes down here. I did, like I said, I mentioned Cor Caroli and Canis Venatici. Beautiful double. I like Cor Caroli. It's tight, but not too tight, and two really nice blue stars. So there you go. There's some extra credit binaries there. Porrima, I've talked about this one, I think every year. This is one of my favorite binaries to look at. I mentioned the first time I looked at this one was through the 24-inch Clark telescope at Lowell Observatory when I was working there during my undergrad. And with the 24-inch Clark, I could barely separate them. I could. It looked like two yellow car lights way out in the distance. But over the last 2 decades, they've actually separated. I can easily get it with my 152 and my 90. It's so crazy that now you can separate that. And they're going to get a little bit more and then they're going to come back around. So it's kind of fun to measure that period or see that period of time just in our lifetimes. So check out Porrima. That's Gamma Virgo or Gamma Virginis. 54 Leo. First time I ever looked at 54 Leo was last year. And I'm like, hey, look, another one. Because Gamma Leonis is a popular one in Leo, right? It's the one where the head connects to the rest of the body. That's a great binary too. But 54 Leo is great. It's a nice bluish white pairing. The primary is slightly brighter, easily separatable. So check that one out. This is a fun one that I just, I was scanning the sky looking at galaxies up there by the head of the bear, and I found this one, HD 61907. And I was looking in that area because there's some Caldwell objects in that area, galaxies, and I'm like, what is this? This looks like a binary. So I looked it up. It is a binary. So check this one out. It is great. It is a brighter yellowish white primary with a fainter blue-white secondary. So you got that blue-white yellow and the blue-white blue. But but you got a nice little color difference there. So check that one out. Kind of a surprise binary I wanted to share with you guys. So the next binary is Gamma Crater. So this one's down by Hydra in the constellation of Crater the Cup. So check that one out. It is a nice bright yellow primary and a fainter white secondary. So you got that brighter yellowish white primary and then the fainter white secondary. So always trying to find new binaries for you guys, multiple star systems. All these are really good ones to look at with aperture. I'm able to get this in my 152 and my 90. So check these out. Have fun with them. Let me know what you think. They're good tests of seeing. Seeing in the springtime would be kind of weird, but get out there, have fun. And you know what? If there are other binary stars that you love to look at that I have not mentioned, let me know. I love looking at new binaries, and I think these refractors do such a great job with the color and the separation. So there we go. It is April. April is such a fun month for observing because it is galaxy season. And plus, there's still, if you stay up late enough, you can get into some of those summer constellations too, summer Milky Way stuff. But it is a fun month for observing. It can be a challenging month too because for some of us, it is the beginning of severe weather season. I mean, here in Colorado, we could get snow in the mountains, fire weather watches, and then severe thunderstorms out on the eastern plains. So it can be a challenging month. But get out there, observe, set up your telescope, set up your rig. Sometimes it's just getting out, bringing that peace, bringing that joy of the hobby that we got into, that we love. It is unbelievable. I love getting out there. I love sharing it with my friends. It is also the month of NEAF, the Northeast Astronomical Forum. I am so excited. I have never been to NEAF. I've never done a NEAF, so I'm excited to get out there. I'll be hanging out at the Stellar View with Vic and some of our other friends and Stellar crew. So come by, say hi. I'm looking forward to getting out there and seeing all the other vendors. And oh my gosh, I was looking at the list of people that are going to be at this thing. Like, we have Don Pettit, veteran NASA astronaut. He has spent time on the International Space Station. I show some of his videos to my class while he's up there. We have Michelle Thaler, amazing astronomer, astrophysicist. I also have shown some of her videos in my class. She's been on How the Universe Works, which is a great series. Robert Hoot Gibson, oh my gosh, he's been on several shuttle missions. Anna Fisher, another NASA astronaut. Apollo flight director, Jerry Griffin. My boy, Kevin Schindler from Lowell Observatory is going to be there. Oh my gosh, it's gonna be so fun. I gotta plan this out. So hopefully we'll see you at NEAF. If not, get your scope out, observe. Let's have some fun and keep looking up.